But we start this morning in Cairo, where hundreds of supporters of the ousted President Mohamed Morsi have clashed with the security forces. Police have again been using tear gas to drive back the protesters, who retaliated by throwing rocks back at them. The clashes came shortly after US envoy William Burns called on the new Egyptian leaders to show maximum restraint in handling the protests. He met Egypt's new interim leaders but was snubbed by key groups, including Mr Morsi's Muslim Brotherhood.
The demonstrators gathered in central Ramses Square and blocked streets in the city. Security forces moved in and began firing tear gas to disperse the crowds. Some of the protesters responded by throwing rocks and setting fires. Local media reported that the violence injured at least 22 people. Morsi's supporters staged a series of demonstrations after Egypt's military leaders overthrew him in a coup 2 weeks ago. This clash was the first since security forces killed more than 50 people in a protest a week ago.
Demonstrators tried to block one of the capital's main roads and stage a sit-in at the central Ramses Square. For 2 weeks now, the Muslim Brotherhood and its sympathisers have been camped out in an eastern part of the capital and at Cairo University to put pressure on the military to reinstate Morsi.
If our demands are not met by Friday, we'll escalate the situation by occupying the airport. We'll not leave the streets even if they kill us. We'll stay until legitimacy and full rights are restored to President Morsi. The clashes came as the first senior US diplomat met with Egypt's interim president and prime minister. However, both Islamists and their opponents are highly critical of Washington for sitting on the fence over recognizing the new political order.
The clashes came not long after a top American diplomat urged both sides against escalating the situation. US Deputy Secretary of State William Burns met in Cairo with the country's interim leaders. He's the first high-ranking US official to visit Egypt since the fall of Mohamed Morsi, which Burns described as a second chance for Egyptian democracy.
And the world was watching.
We want a strong Egypt, an Egypt which is stable, democratic, inclusive, and tolerant, an Egypt which addresses the needs and respects the rights of all of its citizens. That is the Egypt that Egyptians deserve. That is the Egypt that can lead the rest of the region to a better future, as it has done so often during its rich and proud history.
But there was deep skepticism amongst Muslim Brotherhood supporters camped out in central Cairo. Still furious about what they see as a US-sponsored military coup against their man, they remained unmoved by the diplomat's words.
America are the ones who carried out the coup. They didn't just recognize it, no, they are the ones who carried it out. We have specific information about communications which prove that America planned the coup and the Egyptian defense minister executed it. So for that reason they come to visit them and they come to recognize them.
In an atmosphere of mutual suspicion, Mr Morsi's opponents have also accused the US of inviting his discredited regime back into the fold. As street battles raged on, with both sides threatening to converge on Tahrir Square in the coming days, America's political dilemma in the region only looks set to get worse.